Thank you for double-clicking your mouse tonight. You're listening to the Midnight Frightcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Midnight Frightcast, episode number 56. I am one of your hosts, Josh. Phoning it in tonight are a couple of us. We got Greg the Movie Guy.
What is up, film people?
And the Scream Queen herself, Maddie.
Hello.
And sitting across the table from me, laughing at me right now, is Jesse.
Hello.
And to my right is the doctor of everything else, Patrick.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
I'm Josh. Did I say my fucking name?
I don't know if
I think I just got right into it.
Yeah.
I was like, I forgot my whole intro.
Well, it's kind of an
Doesn't
odd
matter.
intro because, yes, we did have to start over.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties. You got to love that shit.
Really bums me out because I can only do it right once. Anyway, we got a super packed podcast tonight. We're doubling up the trailers, so we're just going to kick it off. We're talking about the first trailer we're going to talk about is Alexander Aha's Crawl. Maddie or Greg? Which one of you guys would like to start it off?
Hey, I can jump in first.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Greg.
Let me guess. Excited.
So I'm actually super excited to talk about this one. This was a really exciting trailer that we watched. I love that it's a mix of a disaster film complete with a creature feature, and I feel like the intensity of the film is it's basically like, best of luck to the characters. You're probably not going to make it out, but let's see what happens as we go. So if the movie matches the intensity and the excitement of the trailer, I'm definitely excited to check this one out.
Hey, Maddie, you want to fire off what you think?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think this is like a cool twist on your normal creature feature to put that kind of natural disaster vibe in there. And I really like Alexander Aja. I don't know if I'm not going to run it to the theater to watch this, but when it pops up on Sci-Fi in like 18 months, I'll sit down and watch it.
I don't think it's going to. That's not that bad. It's not sci-fi material.
I don't know. It could
They
be.
sometimes show good
I think
movies.
it could be.
Oh, man.
It could be.
Jesse, go.
I'm very mixed on this. I think the trailer was kind of disappointing in that I've only ever seen one disaster movie that I enjoyed. Like even like in a guilty pleasure way, and that's The Day After Tomorrow.
Okay.
I generally
really?
hate that genre. It seemed to me like that aspect of it is going to really bog it down. But if they had it like an isolated incident with the house and only had the hurricane as a backdrop, you'd have something maybe along the lines of The Shallows, which kind of worked for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not that into the trailer, but I did see Alexander Aja, who, there were some good things about Piranha, so if he can capture the good things about it and not all the bads, then it can be good. And then Sam Raimi's got his hands on it, and he seems to be really good at making generic horror, but with a very visible style to it. So if all the working parts, are effective, I think it can be good, but it seems really risky to me. It seems like it could be a huge piece of shit.
Cool. Patrick.
I, too, am mixed on this. Mainly because as I was watching the trailer, some of the things seemed so polished that I didn't know if it was overuse of CGI or if it was done in a sound studio, that type of thing.
I'm getting CGI vibes.
I think it had to be like in some sort of controlled environment on a stage.
Yeah.
In studio.
Yeah,
shot.
in order to get, because I'm sure they're using practical water effects for a lot of this stuff.
They're on like a beam.
But like when the exterior shots to me seemed extremely hyper realistic, so it didn't look real to me.
It looked like Geostorm.
Yeah. So those are the kind of things that pull me away from a movie when I'm watching it, if it just looks too hyper realistic. The concept of the film, though, kind of intrigues me, so I think it's going to be one of those things that I'm not going to chase, but I'll probably for sure check it when it's streaming or out on Redbox.
Cool. Like you said already, Alexander Aja, I think he's got a pretty good track record. Jesse brought up Piranha. I was a fan of that. I was a fan of his remake of The Hills Have Eyes. I'm a fan of Sam Raimi and all the horror stuff that he touches. I like the idea. I like the concept. I think it's simple but effective. I might be the most excited about this movie. I will run as fast as I can to a theater and check out Crawl.
I didn't get this in, but there was some definite purposeful homages to Jaws. And I think if they really play up that angle of, you don't know where it's at in the water and really let that build, there can be some really cool stuff there. I like the Jaws references.
Cool. So the second trailer we're going to touch on real quick, and this one dropped last week. It dropped Thursday.
Last Thursday,
yeah,
I believe.
A little movie called It Chapter 2. Pretty excited about this one, too. I'll let anybody start. Go.
Stephen King, It, Chapter 2. I'm there, regardless. This trailer, it didn't matter what they did with this trailer, because I would still be there for it. However, watching the trailer itself, fucking creepy as hell. I thought they did a great job of mirroring what they did in Chapter 1 with the jaggedy walk of Pennywise as another character. Mm-hmm. I like the bouncing back and forth between the times. I think it was a solid trailer, even though it was more of an extended cut type trailer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. To me, looking at this, if I knew nothing about the movie itself, it would make me want to be there regardless.
Yeah. Cool, Jesse?
Yeah, I agree. I really gravitate towards trailers like that. It's starting to be used more. I think people are hearing a lot of complaints about you're giving too much away. So trailers are starting to go in that direction of they're just going to show you a little 2.5 minute section, so you get the idea, you get the tone, but they're not giving away anything. So the trailer worked for me in that sense, the way they chose to do it. As far as the actual movie itself, I'm excited prior to the trailer. I was more excited after seeing the trailer, though. So it did its job.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Maddie?
I'm actually one of those people that thought the trailer was kind of weird because I thought it was weird that they did show such a huge, whatever of the movie. I didn't love it, Chapter 1, but I'm definitely willing to see the second one when it comes out. I also just want to point out that I have no sympathy whatsoever for anyone who goes into a stranger's house and then gets, eaten or whatever. In that whole extended clip, I was just like, bitch, why did you go in a stranger's house? That's not... I guess, you know what, if people did that, 90% of horror movies wouldn't exist, but still, just point it out.
Yeah, for sure. Greg?
So I'm going to kind of ride the fence on this one because I half loved and half not really so much this trailer. The half that I loved was the snippet that we got, because I feel like if it sets the tone of what this movie is going to be, it's going to be freaking awesome. So to jump to the other side of the whole montage trailer sequence is kind of where it lost me a little bit, only because it did feel like it gave away quite a bit, but I really enjoyed seeing, I think Patrick said, the jump between the younger cast and who they've grown up to be. Side note, this cast is freaking awesome.
Yep.
Really excited to see all of them portray these kids and how they grow up to be. I'm biting my tongue a little bit because I am going to go see this, and I am excited to see it, but I'm not going to be basing it strictly on the second half of the trailer, the montage portion, but purposefully based on the small scene sequence that we got, because that was creepy as hell. Absolutely love that part of it.
Yeah, there was a good mix of people who either really loved or really hated that first part of that trailer, because it did go on for a long time kind of, but I thought it was a good little taste of what you were going to get in that movie. I think that's a movie that we're seeing as a group. We saw it last year as a group, so that'll be a fun podcast. But yeah, I'm excited.
That was 2 years ago, Josh.
Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah.
It was 2 years ago, yeah.
I forget time. Okay. Anyway, we did it as a group. So I'm excited for It Chapter 2. I dug It Chapter 1. Even though Bill Skarsgård was a weird Pennywise, I'm kind of hoping he's a little darker in this one, which I'm sure he will be. There's some stuff that I know they cut out of the original miniseries that's going to be dropped back into this one. So I'm excited to see how dark they're willing to go.
I came down pretty hard on the first one when I saw it. There was a lot of things I liked about it, but I was super harsh about how they captured the tone.
Yeah.
I rewatched it a month ago, and I enjoyed it much more, and that was my second time seeing it. So
there's just a couple choices that Bill Skarsgård made that I was like, I do not get this, I guess, choice that what he's doing right now. I just didn't like it, but we'll see. Like I said, we'll see how much darker they're willing to go for It Chapter 2. So any other thoughts on the trailers? Cool. Hopefully we'll maybe drop those both on the Midnight Frights or the Midnight Frightcast Facebook page, so everybody can go and check those out if you have not. We are going to kick into the news of the night. I will wait for Greg and Patrick to get their music over with.
What are we doing?
Are you news?
News?
Yeah.
Greg, are we doing news?
It's the news.
So they used to do this.
God, it's even worse in your headphones.
They used to do this thing like Patrick did like a music snippet, and he cut that. I'd love to hear you go back to that.
Yeah, that sounded too professional for us.
I know. Who's got news? Who wants to kick off news? Maddie, you got news?
Yeah, I got some news.
Go for it.
The alt press says that after that stupid Momo challenge, they're actually starting to make a horror movie about it, which I thought that whole thing was a marketing for a horror movie anyway. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm sure it's going to be garbage, but, it's coming. It's happening.
I feel like it's going to be a very similar situation to Lights Out.
Yeah.
I can see that happening.
Has any of you seen Smiley? There's this horror film called Smiley that I actually, for some reason, I enjoy it quite a bit. This is almost the exact same scenario as Smiley, so I don't know. I think it's probably not going to be good, though.
Yeah. Was that it, Maddie?
Yeah, it was.
Cool. Patrick?
Yes, from many different sources. It Chapter 2, and you mentioned this just a few minutes ago here.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It Chapter 2 will include a scene that was originally cut from the miniseries, and it will show Pennywise's evil influence on modern-day Derry. Chapter 2 will include a scene that shows 3 teenagers committing a hate crime against a gay man, where they beat him, push him off a bridge, and leave him for dead.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't read the article. I thought I was going to that. I talked about the scene that I thought we were going to talk about.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That was definitely in there. And I know Bill Skarsgård said they filmed it or were going to film it, and then they cut it out.
Yeah, I've been trying to find more information on the baby eating thing as well, and because I don't remember that from the book at all.
Okay.
And I really don't think it's in the book, and that may have been something that they added to show kind of like an origin story, possibly for Pennywise.
Yeah.
So that's what I've got. I have another one, but I'll wait.
I can already see the lines people will draw between the baby eating and a lot of the shit going on right now politically.
Yeah.
That sounds like a mess.
Yeah.
Cool.
So.
Real quick. Hey, hide your original content because the remakes and the reboots are coming. Chris Rock has decided that he wants to bring back the Saw franchise, not another sequel, but start the whole fucking thing over again. He apparently is a huge fan of that franchise, and he thinks that they should start over and do it again. Darren Bossman's coming back to direct that film as well. Also coming back is the return of Wrong Turn. Again, it was a franchise that the creator was going to do another sequel and decided that he didn't do the Hillbilly family correct the first time. So instead of doing another sequel, he wants to redo the Hillbilly family the way he originally wanted to do it. So Wrong Turn and the Saw franchises are both coming back to a theater near you.
Apparently Chris Rock isn't a big enough fan because he should just leave the franchise alone.
Correct.
I know. Speaking of abortions, those two are on the fucking tube. God damn it.
I think you just found your clip.
I think so.
Speaking of abortions, do you have another news, Patrick?
I do. From Deadline.com, the Stranger Things plagiarism lawsuit was dropped just days before it actually went to trial. The plaintiff, Charles Kessler, has withdrawn his wide-ranging damages suit against the Duffer Brothers in a statement that he said, after hearing the deposition testimony this week of the legal expert I hired, it is now apparent to me that, whatever I may have believed in the past, my work had nothing to do with the creation of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
How do you even file a lawsuit like that anymore with all the remakes and reimaginings and everything's based off something else? I don't even know. Unless, literally someone, stole into your, room at night and, took your script and ran off with it. I don't even understand how that's a thing.
He said that he was the third person in the room when they came up with the idea of Stranger Things, and that a lot of the content that he came up with, they ran off with and put in the show.
Why did he not end up as the third person as it kept going?
I think they had creative differences, so they split off from him, but still took some of his ideas.
I'm sure. But he said, after the deposition testimony from the legal expert I hired, it's now apparent to me that whatever I may have believed my work had nothing to do with the creation of Stranger Things.
That just seems...
To me, it sounds like, why... Okay, he's absolutely sure that it's plagiarized, and then, somebody read me my ideas. Oh, shit, they don't sound like that at all. It's like, what
it sounds like to me, and I don't generally do any conspiracy things, I don't think the guys who do Stranger Things, the Duffer Brothers, are worried about him having, some of his ideas in. I think they would admit to that, he has an influence, obviously. Yeah. But I think because we're so close to the new season coming out, it just inherently, it sounds bad that they're being, it's being assumed that the ideas aren't original. So it seems to me, the way his quote is, it seems so definitively opposite of how he felt. It seems to me like they're like, dude, let's just write you a check and then drop this.
That's what I was just thinking. Yeah.
It seems like, they were like, dude, we'll write you a check and just drop this. We get you're upset, but this affects the new season. So I guarantee they paid him to say that, because that sounds like something nobody would say unless they were paid.
Yeah. Was that season going to be held up with it in court?
No, but this is just now hitting, the waves, and people who like it are going to read that shit and be like, well, it doesn't necessarily lend credibility to their future work or even season 3. Yeah. It just casts a negative light over what everybody pretty much unanimously loves. So it's easier, even if, it doesn't really matter how much of his ideas were there. They were probably just like, we just don't want this to be a thing because, season 3 is coming out soon.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Is that everybody's news?
I have some news.
Oh, Jesse, please jump in.
I guess I don't know if I can consider it news. Robert Pattinson is apparently going to be the new Batman. And then I've heard that they've come out and said that there has been no official hiring yet, but yet he's still one of the front runners. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if they're in the middle of doing the contract or if they just backtracked because response was so negative.
Yeah.
I was actually pretty stoked about it. So
really?
Yeah, I was. I think a lot of people are just going off of the Twilight series.
Which I've never seen.
But Robert Pattinson has given some really good performances and some things. And I think my issue with him is that I think he could do Bruce Wayne really well. Yeah. But as Batman, I might have a hard time because he'll really have to bulk up. Yeah. I mean, they're obviously doing some sort of timeline thing because he looks a little younger. Yeah. They're not going to play him as 45 like they did Affleck. But yeah, they've said all along that they're planning on making it like more of a crime investigation thing, and you focus on Batman as an investigator, because in the comics he like solves crimes. Yeah. So they've said all along that's the realm they were heading. There's not going to be as much, big action set pieces. So yeah, the Batman voice, which is iconic, I think he has to really nail it. But as Bruce Wayne, I was actually pretty excited when they announced it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they have a good, nice big glitter budget. Yeah. So, but yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Cool. That's news. I guess Patrick and Greg. There it is.
That was the news.
Cool. So we're gonna go right into what we've been watching. I have a fucking list. So does anybody want to start?
I'll go ahead and start.
Cool.
Mine's really quick, simple. I'm looking forward to the series finale tonight of Game of Thrones. I'm all caught up on that. It is. I don't care. People were dishing on it this past week about last week's episode. I thought it was a great episode.
So did I.
And, what did you expect her to do? I'm not going to give spoilers.
Please don't.
And then I finally had the opportunity to see Avengers Endgame, and I thought it was okay.
Interesting.
I had said this before to somebody else that maybe my expectations were a little too high, but it was not the ending I was expecting or anything like that. So just a personal opinion.
Cool.
Next.
Yeah, Jesse, you got something you've been watching?
Yeah, I totally forgot that this was one of the things, but I, too, also watch Game of Thrones a lot, and I am excited. I also discovered this movie. It's the guy who did It Follows, the director, called... The
Lighthouse?
No.
Nope.
That's not the same guy. The guy who did It Follows, this is only his second thing.
Oh, The Lighthouse is the guy that did The Witch.
Under the Silver Lake,
okay.
Starring Andrew Garfield. This movie is like, I fucking loved it. It's been having all these production issues. They released it at a weird time last year. It did some festivals, and then they decided they'd push it out this year. And then right before it was supposed to come out in April, they're like, no, we're just going to put it on VOD, and they're not doing a release like at all, which I was concerned about. But I was still fascinated with the concept, and I watched it a few weeks ago. and I've now watched it 2 other times. I can't get enough of that movie.
That's on Prime, right?
I just watched it on a website.
Gotcha. Cool. It is on Prime, though.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Nope.
Oh, cool. Maddie.
All I've really been watching is Game of Thrones and the hilarious video that I just sent you guys in the group chat. I don't know why, but I watched that like 19 times this last week. But yeah, I've just been watching Game of Thrones. Last week was training week for me, so I was very tired and my brain is mush.
Cool, Greg.
So again, I've been watching Game of Thrones as well. I'm super excited for the series finale this evening. One thing I do want to talk about, though, is I started watching a brand new series that dropped on Netflix called Dead to Me, starring Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini. Fantastic dark comedy, and this is about as dark a comedy as they get. I've been really pleased with how everything's been transpiring. There's jaw-dropping moments and surprises and different things popping up. It's been a really good series, so I definitely recommend that to anybody that is looking for a good series to check out.
Cool. Yeah, I will bang through my list really fast. But real quick through my list, on Prime, I watched a movie from 2017 called Downrange. That was on Patrick's list from a couple years ago. So check that out. Super good. Really dug it. Really easy, simple concept. A ton of fun. I definitely check that out if you haven't. On Netflix, I watched a movie called The Highwaymen. It's got Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson hunting down Bonnie and Clyde. Was super good. Also, Netflix, I watched Death House. That is the Expendables of horror. Skip it. Prime, I watched a movie called The Ranger, which I was super excited about. It was a really good idea, really bad execution. Skip it. On Hulu, I watched a movie called Down, which was really good. Go hunt that one down and watch it. That was a ton of fun. And then a movie that we did a trailer on a while back is on Hulu called The Toy Box. Oddly enough, I was kind of really interested and kind of excited about it. Ended up being really, really crappy. It was terrible. So I'd skip that one too. It's got Denise Richards and Misha Barton in it. For some reason, I thought it would be better than it was. But those two can't act their way out of a toy box. So I'd skip that one too. That's what I've been watching. 3 weeks since we've cast, so I've just watched a dumb amount of shit. Probably not as much as I should have. So apparently I should have been watching Game of Thrones. So yeah, our topic tonight was confusing to me. I'm going to throw it out, and then I'm going to let Greg start, because apparently Greg was just looking to start a fight. So our topic tonight, from what I gathered, is called Is It Horror? And with that said, I'm going to pass it on to Greg.
So this stems from an earlier topic that I actually came across, Josh. Not really. Okay, let me back up. It didn't come up from a topic, but an argument that you and I had after we had both seen the movie Shape of Water, and what determines a movie to become a horror movie. Just a little insight to that argument. You felt that there was a lot of horror, or a lot more horror in The Shape of Water than I did, while I felt that there was a lot more horrific aspects to it, but it was still more of a fantasy horror drama type film. And so I really kind of wanted just to hash out what really makes a horror movie, because in this world right now, we're seeing a lot of remakes, reboots, different subgenres, and a lot of genre clashing almost. And it's really getting kind of difficult to read the clarity of the lines of what genre you're really watching. And so just kind of wanted to see what people thought of that, and if there's any arguments or throwdowns that happen, then ding, ding.
Cool. Well, I mean, Jesse, you're a genre fan. You like the horror genre.
Yes.
Do you have a feeling on this topic, I guess?
I don't have a particular feeling. I think there are those who kind of go by, the studios, the producers, when they release something, they kind of determine via marketing what it is, and you can Google a movie and there, it says what genre it is, and that's kind of, you go by that. It's, it's easy. You don't have to think too hard. I'm definitely not one of those people. And then there's the opposite end, which I tend to lean towards, but is also flawed, where, genre is definitely in the eye of the viewer, and it's determined by your own personal experience with film and with life. Some things are horrific for you because of your personal experience, and so you might see something that's more of a psychological thriller as more on the horror side, and some people who are not really into that kind of thing don't, they feel more confident and stable, or I don't know, they might see it as, this is just a drama film.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think generally speaking, it's up to the viewer to determine, and you can't tell someone they're wrong about what a genre is, or that they're right. But that's a little bit flawed too, because, all of a sudden, Adam Sandler movies are horror movies because, they're so bad. There's a line there.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily feel that way, but there's, that's also flawed, because then people just slap labels on things that, like, how did you get there? So,
yeah, for sure.
This is really complicated.
Yeah. Patrick?
I totally agree with Jesse on that it's extremely complicated, because it is so subjective to what makes someone feel uncomfortable. Could be horror to them. Thriller could be horror. Anything like that. It's what makes you feel uncomfortable, because I don't think that Jaws would have been labeled as horror when Jaws first came out.
Action adventure or thriller, anything like that. But today it definitely, to me, lives within that horror genre because it scared the shit out of so many people. So I guess to me, what is horror is whatever you feel makes you uncomfortable to the point where you don't want to go into the water, where you don't sleep with the doors closed, things like that. So I guess it's completely up to the viewer. Yeah. Maddie?
I'm going to go ahead and say that everyone who thinks Cam is a horror movie is wrong, but that's all I'm going to say on that one. There's a phrase that was used in the Supreme Court by Justice Potter Stewart to describe obscenity. And he says, I know it when I see it. And that's kind of my view on horror. But on the other hand, I also think horror has that little something that isn't shown to a general audience. I think that's kind of what separates horror from a thriller. I think horror just goes that little extra step it just doesn't have something that you would necessarily see in like an action or a drama or something like that. So to me, as I said, horror is a movie that has that extra step in it. Like, I don't know, you wouldn't see anything that was in a Serbian film in any other horror genre, thank God, or any other genre, thank God. As I said, I've been up since 3:30. I really don't have any coherent thoughts on this, but yeah, that's just kind of, I think horror can be kind of subjective, although, yeah, I will judge somebody real hard if they say something like Cam or The Witch is a horror movie.
You're definitely within your right to. I judge people too on that kind of stuff, but you don't get to determine whether that's right or wrong. You can definitely judge it, though.
I guess I judge the person more than like that movie. Like if you were like, "Oh my God, Cam is so scary," I'm going to be like, "You're a bitch." Okay, move on.
I don't know that movie, so I can't say anything.
You can avoid it. You can avoid it. Don't look it up.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's a horrible movie.
Yeah, it's hot garbage.
Maddie, I think you brought up a really solid example, and one that I was trying to remember, and thank you for reminding me, was the movie The Witch and how it came up on so many people's top horror movies of all time. And I
judged all of them.
Exactly. It is not a horror movie. It's based on some pretty frightening things, but it is not a horror movie in the least bit, and it's not really even a good movie in the least bit, I think.
Actually, an interesting thing as well, what it's based on. All horror, especially early in horror, was based on like the Gothic genre, which is inherently, horror started with, cavemen. They would get scared of their shadows, and there's a lot of theology behind early horror, and even now. So if something's not scary or doesn't have perceived scary things in it, but it's based on something that was, if it's based on a horror concept, but the capitalization isn't there, I think it would still be horror, even if it doesn't scare you.
Yeah, now I'm pissed.
The Witch was based on gargling someone's balls. That's what that movie's based on.
Now I'm pissed at Greg because he's going to make me fucking defend The Witch, and I hated that movie. But
why? No, dude, no, you don't have to defend that movie.
No. But wait,
that movie.
but calling it not horror is, again, horror, as we've all kind of gathered and said, overall consensus wise, is a feeling. So something that might not have been horror to you or to me or anybody may have been horror to somebody else. Cam may not have been scary, but like Jesse brought up earlier, there's something that might have been, or somebody that might have had that experience or anything like that, and that's scary to them. It's an overall, horror's an overall feeling. And so if somebody out there thought, hey, that movie was scary to me, or I can just the experience in that movie scared me, then you can't tell them they're wrong. And like I said, I hated The Witch, but there's atmosphere in that movie that scared somebody. And there's a reason it ended up number one on a ton of people's list. Not my list, but a ton of people's list is because it scared somebody. But my stance has been for a long time, and I feel I've been pretty consistent on saying the same thing every time this comes up, is it's a feeling, and it's how it makes somebody feel. That's horror to me. So I mean, my wife's a perfect example that I will show her something that will scare the crap out of her, but not myself personally. I don't think it's scary. She's the perfect person to watch a horror film with, because I end up watching her reactions more than I end up watching the movie. And so that shows me that to somebody, that's a horror film. I don't think we've ever butted heads, Greg, on whether a movie is like a horror movie or not.
No, and I think maybe butting heads was the wrong term, but I know you and I have discussed, especially with the Shape of Water, what really entails or what really makes a horror movie a horror movie. And yeah, definitely the feelings, but you take a movie like The Shape of Water, where you could consider it a creature feature to some respects.
It is a creature feature.
Well, it is a creature. No, I will give you that. It is a creature feature for sure. But, I never felt scared at one moment at all in that movie. So to me, that doesn't feel like a horror movie.
I feel like that argument is flawed about I wasn't scared. Horror comedy. We use horror in horror comedy, and 90% of horror comedies are not scary in the slightest.
Right.
Yet you see the things that are common in horror. They're making light of them. You still don't just refer to it as a comedy. There's horror in it, even though it does not frighten you.
Well, maybe I'd like to coin a phrase here, unless somebody out there has already done it, but softcore horror.
Yeah. I mean,
softcore horror.
I'm sure that's...
Would you consider that like a hand-in-hand with thriller then?
I think thriller lives more in the drama. That, for me, anyway. I always feel like thrillers have more of like that drama. Take Hereditary. I consider that more of a family drama movie.
What the fuck?
Yeah. What? No, she's entitled to her opinion.
No, yeah, of course. But that's to me, that's an extreme horror film. That's very horrific.
You don't know what Maddie watches.
I mean, I've been filled in, and I feel like out of everyone else here, I am into that darker shit probably more than any of you besides Maddie. And I still find that movie to be... That made me more uncomfortable than any movie has in years, ever. That movie fucked with me real bad.
And as far as thriller stuff too, though, if you go back and look at The Strangers, I wouldn't call The Strangers a drama. I'd call The Strangers more of a horror film than drama, but I would still say it lives in that thriller spot, along with all those home invasion kind of movies. I never really considered those horror.
Home invasion scares the shit out of me, though. So for me, that's a horror.
Yeah, but it's a subgenre. It's a subgenre
as well.
Yeah.
Of thriller is more of a subgenre of horror than anything.
Yeah,
you're going to find if you go into a movie store, they don't exist anymore, kids. But if you go into a movie store, those live in the same aisle. They never really separated them.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Maybe there should be two types of thrillers, because there's definitely drama thrillers and then more horror thrillers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because for me, thrillers, whenever anybody mentions thrillers, that's more like Usual Suspects, Rear Window, that type of thing. Where
Phone Booth. Phone Booth is a fucking...
I love Phone Booth.
That's an amazing movie, and that's a drama thriller. A drama. There's no horror there. There's a drama thriller. But then you have Gone Girl. This is definitely a psychological thriller. That could really easily be right down the middle. Some people might see the horror.
So,
And Jordan Peele, too.
Yeah, you could say that thriller then is something that crosses over. You can have a thriller horror and a horror thriller type thing.
Yeah.
So
one's the leading vibe, and the other
So
what
a
thriller
those,
with some horror
what are those
elements.
circle charts that
Venn diagrams.
Yeah, Venn diagrams that definitely overlap in genres.
But horror is the only genre that's got so many branches coming off of it.
And look at all the things that in a horror movie you could still have romance, you could still have comedy, you could still have all this other stuff. It's definitely going to overlap in a lot of places.
And the creature feature thing has changed a lot too. That used to be the predominant thing in the 30s, 40s, 50s.
Right.
Now creatures don't really scare people that much unless they look super scary. Nowadays, if Frankenstein came out, he doesn't look scary.
Yeah.
You have no reason to believe he is. So like The Shape of Water is a creature feature, but creatures aren't necessarily synonymous with horror anymore.
Mm-hmm. When if you look at a movie like Frankenstein, he really doesn't do anything.
He doesn't do anything at all
anybody.
besides walk around.
Yeah, I mean, like the only time he really does anything is after the fire and all this other stuff. So it's not like he was a creature that was out there to destroy people.
Yeah. It sounds like we all just agree that this is complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's a complicated genre. But it's here's the thing, is we get on this thing every week, and every week we watch a movie, and every week we go, I don't think it was horror at all. So it was a good thing that the discussion of the topic came up, because now next week when we meet, the first person that says, is that horror, will just get squashed. And I just hope it's not me. So
What is our movie next week?
it's Frontiers.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. We'll be in like a couple weeks. We're doing Frontiers.
Yeah.
Next week we're filming.
Next week we're filming.
It will be next week, but it'll be 2 weeks from today. We're doing Frontiers. So, which I'm super excited about. Maddie has talked Frontiers up for a long time, really since she joined the cast. She's talked it up and has been waiting for it to drop somewhere, and it finally did. So, I'm actually kind of excited to watch that movie. But are we done with the topic? Is everybody good and wrapped? Everybody got their good comments out?
I think the last thing I want to say is when we get into this group and we're talking about a movie and we step forward and say this is not a horror movie, sometimes we have to remember that we're rather desensitized to a lot of the stuff that we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
true.
that there's,
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, and that there's a good majority of the population that they don't see the amount of movies that we do or the intensity of the movies that we do.
Yes, actually, that reminds me. You were saying that to you it's what makes you uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I would say the vast majority of people don't go to a horror movie to be uncomfortable. They go to get just spooked out very temporarily. Yeah. Some people want to go see the shit that's going to like give them the creepy crawlies after, and they're going to be thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And some people are like, I literally don't care. I just want jump scares, which, those movies are not scary for people who watch horror because we know, jump scares coming.
You can call them,
You can call the jump scares.
Yeah, but some people are like, I don't really want to be thinking about it after. I just want to go and wonder who the killer is, or I just want to be on the edge of my seat. So it's not necessarily what makes you uncomfortable. It could just be what spooks you out a little bit.
One of my favorite comparisons is people who like going to horror movies they're very similar to people who like going on roller coasters. They like that initial quick scare. They can get off. They know that they're safe and everything is all good and all that. So I think that kind of goes along with what you're saying there, Jesse.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. See, that topic wasn't that big of a headbutting topic. I liked that topic. We're all friends now.
No, it was more just to generate discussion. That's the only thing that I like to do when I submit topics. This was one of my topics.
Yeah, for sure.
I just like to generate discussion and just to get us talking about like some really deep things about the horror genre.
For sure.
I just like to argue.
Or what, what isn't the horror genre.
Cool. Again, does anybody have the final word?
Call it.
I'm ready to fucking jump to this feature because I am so excited to hear thoughts. I kind of want to be more of a moderator on this because I've talked about this movie on the podcast 1,000 times. Tonight we are talking Kevin Smith's movie, Tusk. Patrick, throw out the deets.
I will throw out the deets. Tusk, 2014. It's currently streaming on Netflix. A brash and arrogant podcaster gets more than he bargained for when he travels to Canada to interview a mysterious recluse who has a rather disturbing fondness for walruses. IMDb rating. Ready for this, Josh?
I can't wait.
Are you ready for these ratings?
I'm so excited.
All right, IMDb 5.3.
Yep.
Metascore 55.
Yep.
Rotten Tomato Critics 45.
Cool.
Rotten Tomato Audience 36.
Fantastic. I can't wait to hear all the thoughts on this movie. I'm not even going to start with Maddie because I might just save that for last. But let's start with Jesse.
Oh, fuck. I don't have mine out.
Oh, fuck it.
Okay.
Let's start with Greg. Does anybody have their notes out?
Oh, I'm ready to go if anybody else is.
Can't wait. Greg, you want to go?
I will go.
Go.
All right, so I had suggested this film just because we give Josh a lot of shit on this movie.
A ton of shit.
I'm smiling.
Like an unnecessary amount sometimes. Josh, I'm going to step into your corner and I'm going to defend you a little bit on this.
You don't
movie.
have to. No, I don't want anybody to do that.
No.
I love everybody here.
I want to jump into your corner because I give you a lot of shit only because it's fun to do. But this movie is entertaining in its own right. what I like about it, and actually the reason I had watched it was because you had recommended it to me so many times that it got annoying. But when you told me how the movie was created, that was the real reason that I wanted to check this movie out. And I don't know if you want to dive in on how that was created really quick.
I'm sure I will. I can.
Go for it.
Really fast. So Kevin Smith and his partner Scott Mosier do a podcast called Smodcast. And episode 259 was called "The Walrus and the Carpenter." Really quick, there was an article or on a website called Gumtree.com, and a guy put out a call for basically a roommate. Just said, "Hey, you can come and live here rent free. You don't have to pay any bills, food. I'll feed you, everything like that. And all you have to do is for a certain amount of hours a day is put on this walrus suit that I've been constructing, and I will throw fish at you, and you have to make walrus noises. And that's all you have to do to live here for free." And Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier got sent this article, and the whole podcast, they break down this article, but they also, you can see the creation of Tusk in this podcast, and you can watch them build this movie as they go along through this episode. And that's what I loved. Like, I think the most about this movie is the fact that it came out of something like organic, and it came out of a podcast, and it came out of two friends just talking around and sitting around and talking shop, kind of like what we do. That's like, I think one of the biggest things that drew me to this movie was that podcast. So anyway, at the end of the podcast, Kevin Smith send out a tweet, either walrus yes or walrus no, and he got huge response of walrus yeses and one walrus hell no, and the movie was made. So that's kind of the origins of Tusk and where it came from. Greg.
And I think I know that's the biggest draw of it was because you got to see that creative process, and us being filmmakers ourselves, it's fun to watch other people's creative processes and to hear one of the most highly touted independent filmmakers of all time going through his process on a podcast is absolutely fascinating. And if you get a chance to go and listen to it, definitely do it, because it's really cool to see beginning to the end of the project creation. And the film it's kind of corny. It's a little hokey. Justin Long is not my favorite character, and I kind of want to punch him in the face throughout the entire film. But the creativity and the entertainment factor of it, and the huge battle royale at the end makes this movie entertaining to watch. And while I crap on you for how kind of bad this movie is, Josh, at times, it is a fun watch, and I don't hate on it as much as I probably should. Excuse me, I don't hate it as much as I let on. But sure, it is an entertaining movie.
Cool. Patrick.
Josh, for as much grief as we give you about this movie.
We don't have to start with my name every time.
No, we do.
Cool.
Because it's almost like there's times where you get like almost angry about it. Oh, please. And no, in all seriousness, this is an entertaining movie. If you take this seriously, you're going to hate the fuck out of it. Mm-hmm. You are going to absolutely hate it if you take it seriously. So if you go to watch this, and by the way, we are going to give spoilers because this was 2014.
Yeah.
When you go to watch this, don't take it seriously, and I guarantee that you will enjoy it. I do enjoy. Well, I can't guarantee anything, but you're more likely to enjoy it if you don't take it seriously. However, I will say that I felt this movie was about 20 minutes too long. Okay. That I didn't necessarily feel that the character of Guy Lapointe was necessary, even though he was funny, he was entertaining. It didn't do anything to drive the story forward. Mm-hmm. The girlfriend and Icy Dead People could have just picked up a gun themselves. Yeah, they could have just picked up a gun and gone and done it themselves and knocked off 20 minutes of this movie.
Guy Lapointe was written because Kevin Smith wanted to work with Quentin Tarantino and then he turned it down. He didn't know he was being offered the role of Guy Lapointe. Yep. So there's that little tidbit.
He didn't. Yeah, he thought he was being offered a different part. So he turned it down. So then he offered.
He thought he was being offered the part of the walrus.
Yeah.
So he turned it down.
Yeah.
Keep going, Patrick. Sorry.
No. So Yeah, so it didn't really need Guy Lapointe's character in it. Justin Long has always been an actor that sits on the fence for me, that I either really enjoy what he's done or I don't enjoy what he's done. And this is one of those where I feel that his performance was a little over-polished.
Okay.
That it would have been interesting to see this without him, with somebody else in that role.
Yeah.
He has a very stylized way of acting that he carries from character to character. Most of the time he plays an asshole boyfriend, and that's exactly what he played here. So I felt at times that it was too polished in what he was doing. However, I do think he's really, really good at the emotional scenes in this movie. So I wish I could have seen him play the asshole boyfriend without playing the asshole boyfriend that he's played 4 or 5 other times previous to this.
And it's really great because Justin Long's manager or agency dropped him after he did Tusk. They told him not to do it, this ridiculous walrus movie, or they would drop him. And he was like, fuck you. And he did it anyway.
Well, good for him.
So kudos to that, I guess.
Yeah. Has he done anything since?
I don't know. I'm sure he's done plenty.
That's a good question there.
But yeah, that happened.
Cinematically, I thought it was shot well. Probably one of the better ones that I've seen
For
from
sure.
Kevin
It
Smith.
moves.
Yeah.
It moves. It's not a tripod. It's not standstill. It moves.
Yeah. There's a lot of moving shots in this movie. And then I just love the fact that Kevin Smith does passion projects. That he's able to say, okay, I'll do a few commercial things, bring in some money, but at the end of the day, this is something I really want to do, and fuck it, I'm going to go ahead and do it.
Yep.
And he did this. He did Yoga Hosers, and I hope that he's able to do Moose Jaws. Yeah.
Just wrapped the reboot for Jane Silent Bob.
Yep.
He's got a list. So.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy that does what he wants to do.
He had a very burn it down attitude when he did Red State and Into Tusk, because he had taken so much shit from critics, and he had taken so much shit from
movie?
What's that?
From the cop movie? That
just
was
from
real bad?
just from
Bruce
being
Willis?
fucking Kevin Smith. That he was like, why do I do this to myself? Like, why do I put this shit out just for people to sit behind their fucking notebooks and their screens and shit on something that they know nothing about? And he was like, why do I care? Like, he didn't screen for critics, and they got really pissed off for him for that. And he's like, well, why am I gonna put this out? I didn't put this out for you. Yeah. I put this out for the people, the small group of people that are fans of my stuff. And this is for them and has nothing to do with you. Red State and Tusk were not View Askew Productions. He put a whole different name. I can't think of it right now. He did Smodcast. Okay. They weren't View Askew. And that's the first time he didn't put View Askew on it. He just, he was like, I'm not going to let any of you guys burn down what I've built. I will fucking burn it down myself before I let you guys touch it.
Yeah.
So
because I think something that really hurt him was his choices for his commercial work, which is like that. I can't remember the Bruce Willis one.
He did Cop Out,
right?
A couple of dicks. What was Cop Out?
His 3 commercial projects: Jersey Girl, Zack and Mary Make a Porno, which is the strongest of the 3, and then the cop movie. Yeah. But in general, his 3 weakest films, I think.
Right.
Besides, Yoga Hosers is a pile of shit.
To me, that's another one that if you just take it too seriously, then you're not going to like it.
When it gets to me, I'll explain my
He did not write Cop Out, and he did not write... Well, he did write Jersey Girl, so... Anyway, Maddie... hang on. Sorry, Maddie. Wait, one more turn. Jesse, go into Tusk.
Okay,
please.
I have quite a bit of things. I want to preface that I really love this movie. Like, objectively, I think it's a well-made movie. I do. The screenplay is one of his stronger screenplays. Particularly the Michael Parks stuff. Mm-hmm. He was able to get really, I don't know, the writing is so nuanced when Howard Howe is talking about his past. Like it seemed almost, I don't know, it didn't seem like Kevin Smith's normal writing. There were some bits.
The diatribe,
But I thought the writing was really good. The odd thing, since he does a podcast, I think he was maybe just having trouble emulating what his podcast is, but the stuff with Haley Joel Osment and him when they're doing their podcast felt contrived to me. And I thought that was odd considering his background doing a podcast and that it's based on a podcast. They didn't appear to have very much chemistry. They didn't do enough with the podcast to where we really, it was obviously inspired by the fact that they do a podcast. And it seemed like they would have done that part better. Yeah, I wrote Michael Parks kills it, especially when...
definitely. Yeah.
Especially when he's confined to the chair. I mean, it kind of gets once that reveal is there, and then once he's in the walrus suit, which is there's still 40 minutes left, I lose steam on that because he's walking around and the maniacal part of him being in the wheelchair and playing this mind game is kind of gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially the parts in the wheelchair, you were saying for how slow it is at the beginning, it doesn't feel slow. It has a really strong sense of pacing throughout. I'm never like, I know something creepy is happening. Hurry up. I want to sit there and live in that space and watch Howard Howe like tell the story. I know that he drugged him. You could tell he's getting sleepy.
Yep.
I'm not worried about that going faster, which ordinarily I would be. There was some cool creative visual choices in there, like the flashback sequences. It was like it was on an old film. I thought that was a cool little thing to do. Yeah, it feels fresh, even though there are really a lot of long sequences of dialogue. The score is actually really underrated. The score is really good. There's a particular part where the girlfriend is talking right at the camera, which we find out she's talking to Haley Joel Osment, but there's a score behind her when she's telling the story about how bad he treats her and how she's kind of processing her own guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah, the score behind that particular part was great, but in general, I never realized until when I watched it this morning for the fifth time that the score was so good. The stuff with Johnny Depp, the investigation plotline is what I call it, is like the major weakness here. I am also on the fence about Justin Long. I think this is one of his better performances in general.
Yeah.
There are some things that aren't great about it, but I think this is one of his most consistent. He hits the emotional beats. He does play that douche so well, too. So I think he's good in it. I really, really loved, and I don't know how I didn't think about it, like it was there surface-wise. They weren't trying to hide it, but the first thing he loses is that leg. It's the exact same leg that the boy cuts off when he...
the Kill Bill kid?
Yeah, and Michael Parks is sitting there trying to be serious, but like you can tell him starting to laugh. He has having trouble taking it seriously, and he's very clearly mocking him. He has a line about you'll get function back in all your faculties. Well, not all your He's sitting there mocking him for having his leg gone, which is exactly what Justin Long was doing to the kid, which I thought was just, they weren't hiding it. It wasn't like it was like this big clever thing, but it was a subtle little, it was well done in that sense. Normally this kind of shit bugs me because I get really into the main storyline, like the one with Justin Long and Howard House when he's doing all that shit to him. But the cutscenes of the girlfriend and you get their sort of history, I thought that they played well. And part of that was the transitions. They were transitioning them really creatively from, he's getting that blowjob and then you see him search back in his chair and he's drooling. Like the transitions really made those cutscenes weave in and out much more smoothly than I thought Kevin Smith was even capable of, to be honest, even though I'm a huge fan. Although the bit where they're starting to lurch towards the fact that she's having an affair with his podcast partner was good, except for the scene where she sits back down on the bed and the door is covering. I thought that was a really contrived way to do it. It was cool because she was, the scene where she's looking and, she's talking to someone. That was a good way to do it. There's the other one. But then it was like the door was like in this super awkward position where it was covering who was sitting on the other side of the bed. I was like, you could have, if you wanted to keep hiding it longer, do something else. Like doors don't sit in that position really. People don't have their door like in an obtuse angle. It's either shut or all the way open.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nitpicky, I guess. There was a line in there that said, "You bring shame to the Nazi party," which I thought was so good. And then I wrote, in general, all of the Nazi jokes. I don't know why. Normally I would get tired of them, but I thought they were all funny, down to, Nazi lover.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's just so much funny, Nazi jokes. And normally I'm like, that's clever, that's funny, it's cute. Okay, I'm done.
When they also recognize when it's not going to work to their advantage as well. Like when she's on the phone with the police.
Yes, that was another one. Like, spell it out.
Spell it out. Like, and they hang up on her.
Yeah, I thought that for some reason, just the way that they chose to utilize the Nazi joke, it never fell. Mm-hmm. Normally, when you repeat a joke in a similar way, it's like after 2 or 3, you're like, I get it. But I thought that was interesting that I still thought all of the Nazi things were funny. Yeah, they do a really good job as well. There's a sequence when he's performing surgery and he's talking about how he was abused as a child and stuff. And they do this thing one other time where you just see someone talking and you something bad is happening that you just barely can't see, and it just sits there and then they finally just reveal it really casually. They're not like, dun, dun, look at this.
Yep.
They just like slowly pull back and it's like, holy shit, I thought those were all handled really well. The walrus reveal the first time you see him, as the walrus
the
is
big
like
pull out.
I mean, oh my gosh, it's so funny the way they do that scene, because it's like they just pull it out and you see him and it's like, what the fuck?
And the costume itself is somewhat laughable.
That's part of
but that's part of the elegance of this movie as well, is that Kevin Smith originally was going to get
Greg Nicotero
to do it.
One of the guys from K&B Effects, not Greg Nicotero, one of his other partners, ended up doing the effects because Greg Nicotero was doing Walking Dead.
So it would be interesting to see what it would have looked like if he had handled it as opposed to this other person, or if it would have been the same, because that's what Kevin Smith wanted.
That's
was
what he
something
wanted.
that was pushing the envelope of not hyper realistic, but somewhat realistic and yet laughable, because that's the entertaining
when you can
part
see
of
the
this.
faces
Yeah,
on
when
the
he gave
skin.
him
faces on the skin.
When he gave him the notes, he said, I want you to make a walrus suit, but I want it to look like Leatherface would wear it.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm almost finished here. Yeah, things get really kind of stagnant and boring once after the reveal of Wallace in the walrus costume, because then the investigation stuff doesn't really work. That scene is funny with him and Michael Parks when he's doing the voice and they're out on the porch. But it's so slow and it doesn't help anything at all. So like the whole investigation bit is kind of flat. And then at that point, I don't really care that much anymore because I've seen him as the walrus, which should have been the like penultimate thing. And they played that 40 minutes before it was done. And like none of the stuff after that was played as horrific as it was meant to be. It's supposed to be so absurd and horrific that it's kind of funny, but all the horrific stuff already happened when he was cutting up his body and laughing at him, his leg stump. And so there's some charming stuff in there. It's weak compared to the first half. I would have preferred if the transformation had taken longer and we got more, some surgery stuff. We see some more of that body horror, because they kind of give you little teases of body horror, kind of some Reanimator references it looked like.
Yeah.
With the leg in the bucket. But I would have liked it if that part had been stretched out longer and we see him really go under this transformation, and then maybe 10 minutes before it's over, we finally see him as the walrus.
Yeah.
Because once you see him as the walrus, all the steam is kind of out of it.
There's some good spots though as the walrus.
Yeah, I mean there are
in that movie.
Yeah,
I like when he's dragging him through the swimming pool.
Yeah,
I like that, and when he's sitting next to him on the side of the pool.
Yeah, he's leaning
And
back,
leaning
on
back
him.
on him.
Yeah, and just sings him that songs and listening to him make the walrus noises. I like that spot right there.
Yeah, Harley Quinn, Smith, and
Jen Schwalbach, his wife. Are you talking about? Sorry, the two clerks.
Yeah, they fucking suck. Like they cannot act at all. They're not funny. That shit bothered me. Like
they're the yoga hosers.
Yeah, I know, and that movie is not a movie I like. But no, I get it. Like you want your family to be in it, but put some people in there with a little more experience who maybe have some comedic timing things. They were just super flat. On that note, though, I love all of the shade thrown at like America and Americans in general about don't you love guns and the red, white, but never blue. All that shit was just I don't know. It made me chuckle. But yeah, the gas station girls really bothered me because they could not act at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ending really fucks me up. Like the very end, when he goes back into his hide, and you just see you see the beach ball floating. Like to me, I get sad when I see that.
The Gerard Way song they play at the end of that movie is fucking awesome.
Yeah, so the ending really hits me. I think it's effective, but I think tonally it consistently, and it doesn't always work, but it consistently is treading that line between absurd and like what's supposed to be scary, but it all plays as comedy for me. None of it really plays as scary.
Just a couple of things really quick, and then I'll let Maddie loose on this thing. The real quick thing that I wanted to point out also is Kevin Smith puts a lot of his personal life into his movies. Like Jesse already said, Harley Quinn played a clerk in that movie. Jen Schwalbach, his wife, played a waitress in that movie. Michael Parks, he had always wanted to work with since he saw From Dusk Till Dawn. He was like, that was the best part of From Dusk Till Dawn was watching Michael Parks play that sheriff at the beginning of that movie. And since he saw that, he'd always wanted to work with him. The Nazi party thing came from a friend that is from New Jersey who refuses to like fly anywhere. Mm-hmm. So whenever they go to a con, he makes his friends go and then come back to New Jersey and tell them how it went. That's where the Nazi party thing came from. In the movie, when they're doing the shot in the bathroom through the door, there's a picture of a dog.
That's his
dog Shecky.
Yeah, I read that on the IMDb.
And just the podcasting, like that's all part of his life. There's little things from his personal life that he puts into pretty much, I think, all of his movies.
Dogma's a good example.
But very much into Tusk. So all little things that he throws into the movie that is just personal to him, which is something that I like.
I do
now
too.
that we've gotten through all the dog meat, Maddie, please let loose.
I honestly don't have a lot to let loose about in this movie. That's why I said you're going to be really disappointed, because I mean, I didn't like this movie, big shocker, but I'm not a fan of horror comedy, and I know this movie was not made for someone who has my sense of humor, because I didn't think this movie was funny at all, but this isn't my sense of humor.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not a goofy, funny person in the slightest. If there are horror comedies that I do like, and I can't think of one right off the top of my head, they have a really dark sense of humor.
Trick or Treat.
And
You referenced that last week. That's kind of a horror comedy, I think.
Yeah, I guess. I didn't really think that movie was funny either, but I just liked it because it's cute. I don't know. I kind of thought this movie was a little boring. I didn't really have a lot of fun watching it, and to be fair, Patrick, before you say it, I was not taking this movie seriously from everything you guys said. This isn't one I would rewatch, and I didn't really enjoy watching it, but I did watch the entire thing.
Yes, thank you for not 45-minuting that movie.
You're welcome.
Very appreciative of that.
I didn't hate it to the point that I was going to 45-minute rule it. Like, everything that I have 45 minutes, I hate. And I just didn't like this. You know what I mean? It wasn't a movie made for me, and that's fine. I can see why other people enjoy it, but I did not. But now I've watched it, I feel like I can, should just check something off.
Cool. Final thoughts, just overall final thoughts. Greg's been quiet.
Yo, final thoughts. While Tusk is an entertaining movie, I personally liked Yoga Hosers a little bit better. Judge me if you will. But I think it was because I went into that not taking it seriously. And when I originally watched Tusk, and it took me a little while to kind of enjoy what it was because I went in and I think I did take it a little more seriously than I probably should have. So it's an entertaining movie. There are people who will find some entertainment out of it. That's about the gist of it. It's not a terrible movie.
Cool. We got a couple things to wrap up here as far as scores go.
Yes, we rate our movies according to 3 different categories: the gore score, the fear factor, and our overall rating.
I didn't think this movie was gory at all. I give it a 1.
Cool. Greg?
I give it a 4. I think the whole creation of the walrus suit does add a little bit more of a gore factor to it. Not that it's a wickedly gory movie, but that could turn some people off. So I think a 4 is a legitimate rating.
Cool. Jesse?
I gave it a 3 on gore.
Okay, cool. Patrick?
Yeah, I put it between 3 and 4. I mean, the gore on this was seeing a stump, and then when his arms were sewed to his side. Otherwise, it was basically just the fake, the walrus.
Bucket,
yeah, the leg in the ice.
You see some blood. They just show the blood.
Yeah.
You see.
So there wasn't a ton of gore in this. So probably about a 3, 4.
Yep.
And when he's stabbing him with his tusks too.
Yeah, but you don't really see that.
That's
why you just see the blood on the tusk itself.
Yeah. So. Cool. Yeah, 4. I think 4 is fair to live in that area. So cool.
Okay, then we'll use the same order as we discussed the fear factor.
0.
Okay. Greg?
I think a 2 is safe for the fear factor.
Okay. Jesse?
1.
Okay.
I agree with Jesse. 1.
All right. We're living kind of in the same area. Fair.
And then finally, our overall score. And would you recommend it to a friend?
I'll give it a 3. I might recommend it to someone who I know likes this sort of stuff, but I wouldn't recommend it to someone who is looking for a horror movie.
Okay, cool. Greg?
I think a 5 is a good middle of the road rating for this movie.
Jesse?
I'd go 8.5, 9.
Okay, cool.
I really love this movie. And I have recommended it to probably a dozen people.
Patrick?
I am in that 5 range.
Cool.
But I would recommend this. I would say if you want to watch something that's kind of mindless and could be entertaining and don't take it seriously, watch this one.
Yeah, I was going to go 8. I've recommended this movie to everybody that will listen to me. I think the movie's quotable, too. I think it's got a lot of ton of fun lines of dialogue. So I have been known to put the movie on and then write and quote shit back. Guilty. So, yeah, I think it's a ton of fun, and I would give it an 8 as well.
That's it.
Let's cool. Let's wrap out with some plugs, and then we'll end this shindig. Who's got plugs?
So I'm Greg the Movie Guy, and I'm positively writing movie reviews over at gregthemovieguy.com.
Jesse, you got a plug?
I kind of have a plug.
Cool.
So I worked on a film called The Hero that I wrote and directed starring Patrick, who did great. And my editor previously has been someone named Jeremy Blomstead. He's a local talent. He's unable to continue editing due to some health issues.
Yeah.
But I wanted to take my plug and just recognize him. He's always been really great. I had a blast doing some of the editing with him. He's just always been a very gracious collaborator.
And he's a super nice guy, too.
He's probably one of, if not the most positive person I know. He spends all of his time encouraging his peers. He always wants to jump in and do things. He never asks for credit, really. He never, he's just, I love him to death. Yeah, I hope he's doing well, and I really appreciated his help on The Hero.
Cool. Maddie?
I got a quick one. If you are someone who participates in Omaha Gives, if you could please sign up to have a Nebraska Wildlife Rehab for your charity, that would be fantastic. We rescue, on average, about 7,000 animals a year, and we return them to the wild, and it's really great.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. If you're a filmmaker, go to filmfreeway.com. Check out the Prairie Lights Film Festival. They're still taking submissions. So throw your film into the hat and then come out and see it in October. It's a shit ton of fun. Patrick.
First, before I get into the Midnight Frightcast stuff, I'm kind of bouncing off of Maddie's there. And if you're a person who donates to Lincoln Gives, please consider the Haymarket Theater. They are moving. They found a new place, South Lincoln. And there's going to be some costs associated with moving over to that new place and building up the facility itself. So that's a Haymarket Theater for Lincoln Gives. And then finally, if you're a fan of the Frightcast, and we know you are, help us out and make sure that you head on over to iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us and make sure that you rate and review us. You can also help us out with some of the minor bills by heading over to patreon.com/midnightfrightcast. Check us out online. You can find us on Twitter, mFrightcast, and then follow and join in the conversation on our Facebook group, Midnight Frightcast. So share some more with your friends, your family, and then finally make sure to check out our films at midnightfrightfilms.com.
Yeah, cool. So for myself and Patrick and Jesse and Maddie and Greg, it was a full cast tonight. That was the Midnight Frightcast, episode number 56, and we'll see you next time.
Peace out, boys down.
Later.
Bye, kids.